I claim the Salt Throne.
With the recent passing of Stan Lee, we lost one of the greatest creative visionaries of the modern age. His work in Marvel Comics helped to spur a revolution that would go to influence all aspects of pop culture throughout the world. And while most people might think that there's no connection between Stan Lee and A Song of Ice and Fire, I'd like to take some time and show you the influence that he has had on George R. R. Martin and this story in particular. Most notably, a particular family in A Song of Ice and Fire. George R. R. Martin has stated himself in a few interviews that he was heavily influenced by comic books when he was a kid, most notably Marvel Comics, even having some of his letters to Marvel editors being published in the backs of their books. And while we know that the conflict in A Song of Ice and Fire is heavily influenced by the Wars of the Roses, along with some of the houses and their allegiances, there is one house in particular that I found to be heavily influenced by the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. The year is 1964, and Stan Lee and Jack Kirby have just reintroduced one of the X-Men's greatest adversaries, that being Magneto, and his new team called the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. This team consisted of 5 main members: Magneto, the Maximoff twins, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, Toad, and Mastermind. And while House Stark seems to be our protagonist for this story, we're going to take a look at a family that is more analogous to the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. That would be House Lannister. The Lannisters have been painted as the adversaries to the Starks, who are our main protagonists in the books, and also they have been painted as basically being evil. And so, if we look at members of the Lannister family, there are certain correlations we can make with members of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Tywin Lannister can be compared with Magneto as the patriarch of his family and the leader of his respective household. He seems to have a massive superiority complex, believing that the Lannisters are pretty much better than anyone in Westeros, just as Magneto happens to believe that mutants are in all ways better than humans. As far as he's concerned, his word is law, his children are only meant to obey his words, and anyone who dares to cross him might wind up in a grave. His winner-take-all attitude has gained him many enemies, but because of his substantial power, many of those enemies are too afraid to actually challenge him. And like Magneto, he happens to have little regard for the wills of his children, thinking that father knows best. Jaime Lannister is very reminiscent of Quicksilver, arrogant, brash, highly skilled, and also highly favored by his father, while at the same time somehow also being a massive disappointment to his father. He also is looking to gain his own identity by stepping out of his father's shadow and being his own man. Like his comic book allegory, he also happens to be highly jealous of any suitor of his sister, and, like in some depictions of the Maximoff twins, he has an incestuous relationship with his twin sister, although I don't think that was something that Stan actually wrote. Cersei Lannister, like Scarlet Witch, has been used and manipulated by her father and has been made to bend to his will in order to further their cause. And that cause being the superiority of the Lannisters over anyone, just as Magneto has used his daughter for mutants to gain superiority over the rest of humanity. Like Scarlet Witch, this has kind of made her very embittered over the years, and at this point, she is very good at manipulating people herself, although she doesn't happen to have some of Scarlet Witch's more redeeming qualities that would make her someone that you might actually feel sympathy for. And while Scarlet Witch has actually recognized this manipulation and tried to use her power in order to try to do something good for the world. Cersei recognized the manipulation and decided that she is going to take that and project it outwardly on the rest of the world and become just as self centered and egotistical as her father. Tyrion Lannister happens to be kind of the outlier of the group. He is someone who unfortunately has gained a bad reputation in Westeros. And like the counterpart from the book, which I would compare him to, which would be Toad, unfortunately, he happens to be used and abused by his family, as Toad has been used and abused by the rest of the Brotherhood over the years. Tyrion and Toad have kind of both been depicted as lecherous skirt chasers, but the big difference is Tyrion happens to be a very smart character who is actually trying to do some good, while Toad, on the other hand, is, pretty much evil for the sake of being evil, even though it might be because he is highly misunderstood. But unfortunately, perception is reality, and both of these characters happen to be perceived in a negative light by the groups that they represent. Now, at this point, you might be thinking to yourselves, does this mean that Joffrey is somehow the mastermind? No, absolutely not. And to be more frank, we'll say, hell nah. There's no way that Joffrey is any kind of mastermind. That honor would most likely go to Peter Baelish. And I know he's not part of the Lannister family, but if we're looking at characters that would have been representative of someone from the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, you gotta go with Littlefinger. So, are there any characters out there that you think I might have missed that might have some correlation with comic books that were created by Stan Lee? I mean, these were some that I happened to pick up as I was reading through the story, and who knows, I might happen to pick up some more along the way. But, you guys let me know what you think in the comment section, and of course, I will be back sooner rather than later with another one. And oh yeah, I'm actually gonna get to meet George R. R. Martin this coming Monday at a special release event for Fire and Blood Volume 1. So you know what? I'm gonna see if I can get to ask him a couple of questions about this, see if I was actually right. But who knows? Anyway, listen, you guys already know the deal. Rate, comment, subscribe, share, tell your friends, and come back for more. That has been my time. This is Don Willie saying Vala Dohiris, and of course, a big rest in peace to Stan Lee.
Enough said.